Should your rental property be smoke-free? Hey everybody, my name is Jason with the Landlord Launch, and I help landlords self-manage their property. We do this through workshops, we do this through on-demand training, and we do this through resources and support services as well for the landlord. So today's topic in this video, we're going to be talking about whether or not your home should be a smoke-free home. So before we get into this, I want to make sure you understand that if you're watching this and you are a smoker, I am not picking on smokers by any means. I smoked for a number of years myself. It's been, close to 15 years now since I quit, but I mean, I smoked 10, 12, 13 years. So I'm very sympathetic to the addiction. I'm very sympathetic to, the things that come along with that you don't realize. Like I never noticed the yellowing of the walls or discoloration of my clothes. I never noticed the smell. I never noticed some of the behavioral issues, some of the things I wouldn't do because of, my addiction and me always planning around being in a lot of smoke breaks, things along those lines. So I get it. I understand. So this video, however, is about how that affects the rental property and whether or not a landlord should allow that in their home. And if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. This is just giving some information as to why I personally think if you own a rental property, it's probably a good idea to be a smoke-free property. So let's talk about, first and foremost, all these things are really, it's all about the damages more than anything and the costs associated with the damages. So let's talk about the yellow walls. I never noticed when I was younger and I was renting or living in a home or whatever else until I moved out of the home how bad the discoloration of the walls were. And of course you take your pictures down, you move things out of the way, and then you see where those things are blocking and what you see that where the normal paint was being protected and where it wasn't. It was a huge deal. And the problem is that stuff is extremely difficult to clean up. I mean, right out of the gate, you're definitely gonna have to put a layer of kills on or a coat of kills on, and then a coat or two of paint as well. And what this is going to do is going to help not only with the color but with the odor as well. But the problem is if you don't prep those walls correctly, you can actually have nicotine bleeds through the paint, and then you have to deal with that with extra coats or trying to figure out how to deal with a wall now that hasn't been prepped and is covered with paint. So it can become pretty problematic. Another thing that you have to deal with, of course, I mean, smokers intellectually know it, and everybody and landlords absolutely know if they've run into it, is the odor that the smoke leaves behind, the permeation of that odor. I actually believe that the odor is every bit as bad as pet odor, if not worse, because it hits everywhere. At least with pet odor, a lot of times, if you can get a little bit of paint on and you can remove the flooring and that's that. But smoke permeates everything in the house, the cabinets, the whole 9 yards. So, I mean, you're minimum, again, looking at that full paint job. You are probably looking at a flooring replacement. You probably need to get an ozone machine in there. You probably need to get a deep cleaning in there. And even then, there's probably going to be some residual. So all those things, they cost money. And, when you're trying to decide allow smoking, don't allow smoking, one thing I can guarantee is that if somebody smokes in your home, those are going to be turnover costs. You may run into some of the same turnover costs with somebody who doesn't smoke. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that it is guaranteed that someone smokes in your home, you are going to be dealing with that. Another thing to think about are just the general damages. I mean, the ones that come to mind immediately is it doesn't matter how hard I tried, the cherry of the cigarette would fall off somewhere, whether it's flicking an ashtray, if I was walking, or whatever else. I always ended up burning something, and I was very conscientious of that. I didn't want to burn anything, but it just happened. And then, of course, the other component of that is, that can cause a fire, which, I mean, we don't have to get into that. I mean, that's huge damage. I mean, that not only to the house and stuff, but all the tenants' things as well. I mean, and possibly life. So I couldn't give you numbers on how common that is, but I absolutely know from experience that I have had apartment fires for sure in the multifamily industry caused by cigarettes, someone falling asleep with a cigarette, something catching fire along those lines. So it is real. Now, one of the things you may hear is yes, I smoke, but I only smoke outside. I'm actually, again, an advocate of a smoke-free property, not just smoking, on the end or on the outside only, because one of the things that happens is that you have that. Again, I don't think that smokers realize how much that affects other people in terms of, like, neighbors can smell that, especially in apartments. I mean, that can go into the next apartment, or if you're outside, that can go up to other patios or whatever, and it ends up being, for somebody that doesn't smoke, it's a very kind of offensive smell. It's tough on them. The Another thing that you want to kind of think about there is the butts, the buckets full of sand with the butts. Those things, I mean, one, it's unsightly. Two, those smell as well, especially if they're not cleaned out on a regular basis. And a lot of times they're not. There is a very definite, strong odor that comes with that. And that's if the smoker's being considerate. I mean, if not, then what you're looking forward to is a pile of butts in the landscaping, throughout the yard, maybe out in the street or the driveway, maybe in the back alley. Maybe there's one spot they pull them all, but that stuff's hard to clean up. It's not, especially over time, if that builds up and rains on it and everything else. Again, it's not the most pleasant things to deal with. So that's a couple of the reasons why even I don't like to rent to even people who smoke outside. So how do we deal with this? How do we keep our property smoke free? So luckily for us, smoking is not a protected class, so we can deny people based on the fact that they're a smoker. I would say first and foremost, so we don't be rude about it. We simply just don't rent to people who smoke. I would put it in the advertising, this is a smoke-free home. I would list it on the rental screening criteria, stating this is a smoke-free home or smoke-free property that we do not rent to anyone who smokes. I would build it into the lease agreement as a lease violation, not only for somebody that lives there. If they are caught smoking on the property anywhere, that's a lease violation, and if you give them your one cure, if that's the laws in your state, happens again, that's a notice. They have to leave. That's it. But I would make it also apply to their guests. It's a smoke-free property. You don't want anybody on there smoking. And yes, tenants are responsible for the actions of their guests, so that's a very doable thing. And then, the final thing on there is, as part of that lease violation, one thing you could also do in addition to making a lease violation is charge a hefty fee. $300, $400, $500, $600. Nobody wants to deal with that. And the thing is if you catch them smoking on their property when you're not supposed to, or there's signs of smoking, obvious signs of smoking, and then charge the fee and make them pay it. And if they don't pay it, then they have to leave. They should theoretically leave anyway, but if they don't pay that, then that's another way to get them out of your home, because then you can go after them for that potential non-payment if that balance builds up. So that is my recommendation. That's what I would personally do. Are the reasons why I would do that, and why I think you should too as a landlord, especially if you want to avoid those costs and protect your property from all the damage that is associated and comes with allowing smokers to live in your home. So thank you once again for watching. If you have any questions, make sure to comment below. This is Jason with the Landlord Launch, and we will see you next time.